right about time to bring you up to speed what's happening globally and in Nigeria. We begin with India's security forces kill at least 12 Maoist rebels. South Korea's Yoon rejects questioning as the tension soared. Israel's security minister threatens resignation over ceasefire. China's population drops for a third year as birth rate drops. And SpaceX Starship breaks up mid-flight. Airlines reroute to avoid debris. Stay with me for these and more stories. No fewer than 12 Maoist rebels have been killed by Indian security forces as New Delhi ramped up efforts to quell the long-running rebellion. On Friday, police said the operation broke out on Thursday in the forested areas of Bijapur district in the state of Chhattisgarh, known as the heartland of the rebellion. We have received information of the killing of 12 Maoists in encounters with the security forces, senior police official Sudraja P. said according to report. Another report placed the death toll at 17, adding that at least 3,000 police personnel were involved in the operation since Wednesday night. Police in Chhattisgarh's Sukma district last week also killed at least 3 Maoist rebels, including a reported explosive expert suspected of being responsible for the deaths of many security personnel, according to report. Last year, India's Interior Minister Amit Shah said the government expected to crush the rebellion by 2026. A crackdown by security forces has killed over 200 rebels in the past year, an overwhelmingly majority in Chhattisgarh, according to government data. More than 10,000 people have died in the decades-long rebellion where the rebels say they are fighting for the rights of marginalized indigenous people. The conflict has seen a number of deadly attacks on government forces over the years. A roadside bomb earlier this month killed at least 9 Indian security forces. A week after that, Indian troops killed at least five fighters, while a separate bomb blast injured 2 police officers. In 2021, 22 police and paramilitary members were killed in a gun battle with the far-left rebel fighters. In 2019, at least 16 commandos were also killed in the western state of Maharashtra in a bomb attack that was blamed on the Maoists in the lead-up to national elections. South Korean anti-corruption investigators have said they will seek a warrant to prolong the detention of President Yoon Suk-yeol after the impeached leader again refused to undergo questioning over his short-lived declaration of martial law. On Friday, South Korea's Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials CIO said I will ask a court to approve an extension of Yoon's detention by up to 20 days. Yoon on Wednesday became the first sitting president to be taken into custody in South Korea's history after investigators carried out a dawn raid on his residence in Seoul. Under the terms of the warrant executed on Wednesday, investigators were granted the authority to hold the embattled leader for up to 48 hours. On Thursday, Seoul Central District Court dismissed a motion from Yoon's lawyers challenging the legality of his arrest, which followed a weeks-long standoff between investigators and presidential security at his compound. Yoon, who has been suspended from office since his impeachment on December 14th, is under probe for offenses including insurrection, which is punishable by life imprisonment or the death penalty, though South Korea has a long-standing moratorium on executions. Yoon's future in office is separately under review by the Constitutional Court, which has 180 days to decide whether to uphold his impeachment by the National Assembly. Choi Sang-mok, Finance Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, is presently serving as acting president after Yoon's initial successor, Han Duck-soo, was also impeached over his refusal to immediately fill 3 vacancies on the Constitutional Court. Yoon's legal team, which has called his arrest illegal, said the president saw no reason to answer the questions. Now on Israel-Gaza war, Itamar Ben-Gvir, Israel's far-right national security minister, has threatened to withdraw from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet if he approves a ceasefire deal with Hamas after over 460 days of war in Gaza. On Thursday evening, Ben-Gvir slammed the agreement and said his ultra-nationalist Otzma Yehudite party, also known as the Jewish Power Party, will quit the government if the ceasefire went through. Ben-Gvir also said humanitarian aid and fuel, electricity and water must be completely stopped from entering the war-torn Palestinian enclave in order to force the release of the captives that remain held by Hamas. He also called for fellow Israeli far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich, the head of the religious Zionist party and the another critic of the ceasefire, to quit the cabinet if the ceasefire is approved. If both parties withdraw from their backing, Netanyahu's coalition government will lose its majority in the Knesset. However, opposition parties have vowed to support the prime minister as long as the ceasefire deals move forward, according to report. And despite his strong words against the ceasefire deal, Ben-Gvir said he does not plan to overthrow Netanyahu's government and will consider returning it if the ceasefire fails. Netanyahu's Likud party said in a statement that whoever dismantles a right-wing government will forever be in disgrace. Likud also defended the ceasefire and said it will maximize the number of live hostages released while guaranteeing Israel's security for generations to come. Since October 2023, Israel has killed at least 46,788 people in Gaza and is accused of committing genocide in the Strip in a case brought by South Africa at the International Criminal Court, ICC. The United States, Egypt and Qatar brokered the ceasefire deal, and the first phase is set to run for 6 weeks. Negotiations for the second and third phases are still underway, although Israel has not ruled out resuming hostilities. Talking demography, China's population dropped for the third consecutive year in 2024 as the demographic crunch continues to loom over the East Asian superpower. The Chinese population declined by 1.39 million over the past 12 months to 1.408 billion as deaths continue to outpace births, the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) reported on Friday. China's population has been steadily falling since the 1980s, but the year 2022 marked the first deaths outpaced births since 1961, when China was in the midst of the disastrous Great Leap Forward plan, which led to a famine in which an estimated 20 million people died of starvation. Recent efforts by Beijing to slow down the falling birth rate have failed to slow what is a long-term trend, and the NBS acknowledged the country was facing many challenges. We must be aware that the adverse effects brought by the external environment are increasing. The domestic demands are insufficient. Some enterprises have difficulties in production and operation, and the economy is still facing difficulties and challenges, the Bureau said in its report. Beijing has employed a variety of carrot and stick approaches to add the birth rate, from tagging single women as leftovers if they remain unmarried to making it more difficult to obtain a divorce or abortion, as well as offering couples subsidies to support the rising cost of childcare. Marriages rose 12.4% year-on-year in 2023, following the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, which led to a brief rebound in births in the first half of 2024 in some parts of the country. Last year was also the promising year of the dragon in China, which typically leads to a small baby boom across Asia, but experts say the overall trend is downwards. China officially ended its one-child policy in 2016 that for decades sought to control the country's growth, but it ended with a lopsided population due to a cultural preference for male children. Families are now allowed to have 3 children as of 2021, but the rising cost of living in urban areas, a slowing economy, and high rates of youth unemployment have made raising children a less appealing prospect for several young Chinese. China's economy grew by 5% in 2024, meeting government predictions, but gross domestic product (GDP) growth is anticipated to continue slowing down in the coming years. Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan are also experiencing population decline for similar reasons as China, including restrictions on immigration. China, like much of East Asia, also does not permit unmarried women to access fertility treatments like IVF. SpaceX's Starship spacecraft has broken up mid-flight, forcing airlines to avert flights to avoid falling debris, while Elon Musk's company successfully reconstructed its prior feat of catching a first-stage booster as it returned to Earth on Thursday. Its new generation uncrewed spacecraft was lost, the aviation regulator said. The Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) briefly slowed and diverted aircraft around the area where space vehicle debris was falling. No fewer than 20 flights changed their routes to avoid potential debris, according to data flight tracking website FlightRadar24, as footage appeared to show parts of the vehicle re-entering the atmosphere over the Caribbean. Musk said the breakup of the spacecraft seemed to have been triggered by an oxygen or fuel leak in the cavity above the ship engine firewall. Musk earlier acknowledged the mission failure, posting footage of falling debris. SpaceX ground control lost contact with the prototype vehicle about 8.5 minutes after it took off from its launch site close to Brownsville, Texas, in the United States. The vehicle, which was in its inaugural flight, carried 10 dummy satellites and was supposed to finish a partial loop around the planet. The mission was the seventh test flight of Space's Starship, which Musk envisions will one day ferry people and cargo to Mars. Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin earlier on Thursday successfully launched its New Glenn rocket into orbit for the first time, marking a milestone in the race to commercial space travel. In a series of X posts after the Blue Origin launch, Musk compared his relationship with his space industry rival to the dynamic between Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly's characters in the 2008 comedy Step Brothers. On more stories now, and in African scene, South African authorities criticize over mine response. South African authorities face increasing rage over the handling of a standoff with illegal miners stuck in an abandoned gold mine as the death toll from the incident reached at least 87. Authorities may face an investigation over the initial refusal to assist the miners and instead smoke them out by cutting off their food supplies. The miners are suspected to have died of starvation and dehydration, although no causes of death have been released yet. Community groups involved their own rescue efforts when authorities said last year they will not assist the hundreds of miners because they were criminals. That tactic to smoke them out, as described by the prominent cabinet minister, was condemned by one of South Africa's biggest trade unions. Police and the mine owners were also accused of taking away ropes and dismantling a pulley system the miners used to enter the mine and some supplies down from the surface. A court ordered authorities last year to let food and water to be sent down to the miners, while another court ruling last week forced them to launch a rescue operation. Manus Fourie, CEO of the Mines and Rescue Service, lauded the rescue and recovery operation as world first, with a unique machine that was developed and designed in South Africa by the mining industry. Several say the unfolding disaster underground was clear weeks ago when community members sporadically pulled decomposing bodies out of the mine, some with notes attached pleading for food to be sent down. South Africa's second biggest political party, which is part of a government coalition, called for President Cyril Ramaphosa to form an independent inquiry. Authorities now believe that closely 2,000 miners were working illegally in the mine close to the town of Stilfontein, southwest of Johannesburg, since August last year. We take a breather now. When we come back, I'll bring you stories from Nigeria. Please don't go anywhere. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. We continue the news stories with stories from Nigeria, and we begin with governors support tax reforms, suggest new VAT share formula. On Thursday, the governors of the 36 states under the aegis of Nigeria Governors Forum (NGF) expressed overwhelming backing for the continuation of the legislative process at the National Assembly that will culminate in the eventual passage of the tax reform bills. However, the forum endorsed a revised value-added tax VAT sharing formula to ensure equitable distribution of resources of 50% based on equality, 30% based on derivation, and 20% based on population. The resolution was contained in a communique issued at the end of the subnational consultations and engagement between NGF and Presidential Tax Reform Committee held in Abuja. According to the communique issued and signed by the NGF chairman, Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak of Kwara State, the governors during the high-level meeting stated support for a reviewed value-added tax VAT sharing formula to ensure equitable distribution of resources on 50% based on equality, 30% based on derivation, and 20% based on population. The governors also agreed that there should be no addition in the VAT rate or reduction in corporate tax, income tax (CIT) at this time to maintain economic stability. On insurgency, DHQ attributes surge in attacks to foreign fighters. The Defense Headquarters, DHQ, has disclosed that the recent hike in terrorist activities across the northeast and northwest regions of Nigeria is due to the influx of foreign fighters serving as support for the terrorists. Speaking during the first military briefing of the year, which also served as a farewell address by the outgoing Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Buba Edward, attributed the resurgence to fighters from the Sahelian region working in partnership with local accomplices. The country has witnessed deadly attacks on military bases and civilian populations in the past few weeks, raising concerns about the rising security situation. Buba said, and I quote, "The resurgence in terror attacks can be attributable to the influx of foreign fighters who came in as reinforcements for these terrorists. These foreign fighters are from the Sahelian region. The other contributing factor is the support from local collaborators who serve as informants reporting on troops' movement." In spite of these challenges, he assured Nigerians of the military's dogged commitment to fighting terrorism. He said the military, apart from destroying the will to fight, was also applying international pressure. And of course, we are applying regional and international pressure and engaging the media. All this combined to destroy the terrorists' will to fight. Highlighting the long-term nature of the counter-terrorism efforts, Buba noted, wars are fought and won all over the world by destroying the enemy's will to fight, and we are bent on achieving just that. We understand that this war is not a quick fix, but a long and enduring military operation, and the end of which these terrorists will be destroyed, and we will have a better world. And finally on the news, rowdy session in National Assembly as IG backs 2025 budget. Thursday at the National Assembly complex, federal lawmakers engaged in a heated argument during the 2025 budget defense by the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Ogbetokun. Trouble started when Ogbetokun was providing a breakdown of funds allocated for the construction of 5 zonal police headquarters across the country. The police chief had barely commenced his presentation when a member of the House of Representatives, Mark Essett from Akwa Ibom, interrupted him, questioning why the details being read by the IG were not contained in the document circulated among lawmakers. Event took a new turn when Senator Onyekachi Nwebonyi, a member of the All Progressive Congress who represents Ebonyi North Senatorial District, said as a senator he ought to have the appropriate copy of the document the IG was presenting. Efforts to clarify his point were fruitless as Abubakar Yalaman, the chairman House of Representative Committee on Police Affairs, overruled Nwebonyi's point of order, allowing the IG to continue his presentation. Angered, Nwebonyi packed his belongings and left the budget defense session. As he exited, he exchanged heated words with many House of Representative members who hissed at him. Yusuf Gagdi, a member of the House of Representatives representing Panshin, Kanam and Kanke Federal Constituency of Plateau State, expressed disappointment at the incident. He explained that the committee's decision to let the IG to continue speaking was in line with established parliamentary procedures. He added that it was inappropriate for lawmakers to interject when they do not have the floor. Ogbetokun resumed his presentation when order was restored, pointing out that the police require adequate funding. He also called for an end to the envelope budgetary system. On recruitment, he revealed that President Bola Tinubu has added the yearly recruitment quota from 10,000 to 30,000, a step he said will significantly enhance the force's performance, urging the National Assembly to help the police in delivering on their mandate, emphasizing that otherwise was entirely dependent on budgetary allocations. To refresh your memories, India's security forces kill at least 12 Maoist terrorists. South Korea's Yoon rejects questioning as detention sought. Israel's security minister threatens resignation over ceasefire. China's population drops for a third year as birth rate drops. And SpaceX Starship breaks up mid-flight. Airlines reroute to avoid debris. And that's all on the news. Thanks for watching. I am Lois Strikey. Have a blessed weekend ahead. Bye-bye.